Okay, so we're going to be looking at the Marxist view of crime in this podcast. And Marxists believe that people's behaviour is moulded by the conflict between social classes, with social inequality as the driving force behind crime. And most Marxists believe that crime is found throughout all social classes. Marxists believe that the capitalist society is criminogenic because crime is an inbuilt and natural outgrowth of a capitalist society which emphasizes economic self-interest, greed, and personal gain. Marxists have shown us that theft is due to relative poverty because it arises from hostility and frustration at social exclusion. Gordon argues that what is surprising in these circumstances is not that the working class commit crime, but they don't commit more of it. Marxists also argue that the law reflects ruling class interests and ideology. They believe that the laws are not an expression of value consensus, which is what functionalists believe. So Chambliss argues that the law reflects the values and beliefs found in ruling class ideology. For instance, at the heart of the capitalist system is the protection of private property, and the state defines acts as criminal in line with this basic concern and other ruling class interests. Also, Steiner argues that capitalist states will pass health and safety laws or laws against pollution only when forced to do so by public crisis or union aggravation as they threaten profitability. Marxists argue that the law is selectively enforced, and they argue that the impression that official statistics give that the working class is more likely to commit crime is due to selective law enforcement. Chambliss argue that there's one law for the rich and another for the poor, as the crime control focuses on the working class as they're most likely to be prosecuted for crime. Moreover, Marxists argue that there are ideological functions of crime. Laws are occasionally passed that appear to be for the benefit of the working class, rather than capitalism, such as workplace health and safety laws. Pierce argues that laws are often to the benefit of the ruling class as well. For example, by keeping workers fit for work, this gives capitalism a caring face and creates a false class consciousness among the workers. So overall, traditional Marxism is useful because it has made us aware of corporate and white-collar crime and shows how official statistics are socially constructed and how laws are selectively enforced. However, the problem with traditional Marxism is that not all capitalist societies have high crime rates. For example, Japan and Switzerland have much less crime than the USA. Also, it can be argued that capitalism is not criminogenic, and there is no clear evidence that communism has lower crime rates, just different types of crime, for example, crimes against the state. Left realists would argue that Marxists ignore the intraclass, which is crime against the same class, and neo-Marxists argue that traditional Marxism is too deterministic, as people are driven into crime by forces beyond their control. So neo-Marxism, or new criminology, has addressed the issue of overdeterminism by traditional Marxism. They believe that crime is a voluntary act and that working class crimes like theft, burglary, and vandalism are meaningful and a symbolic political act of resistance to the ruling class oppression. Taylor created a comprehensive understanding of crime to help change society. The framework for understanding crime was the wider origins of the deviant act, for example, unequal spread of wealth, the immediate origins of the acts, such as the context, the actual act itself, and the meaning that's given to the actor, the immediate origins of the social action, the reaction of the family and police, the wider origins of the social action, such as how the actor is labelled and treated, and then the effects of labelling, which affects the future actions. So overall, new criminology can be evaluated for its usefulness because it addresses the biggest criticism of Marxism, that's being too deterministic. and it's produced a framework which has been used by people like Hall, who believed that crime was used to reassert ruling class hegemony. However, left realists argue that neo-criminology romanticizes the working class crime as they're seen as modern-day Robin Hoods. And feminists also argue that they're gender blind, as they concentrate on male criminology just like traditional Marxists. However, they're not unique, as men commit more crime. Now we're now going to look at Marxist subcultural theory, which is really important that you put into your essay. Marxist subcultural theory supports the idea that crime is a product of capitalism but in a different way. Cohen studied the 1970s skinheads and believed that their style was a symbolic reaction to the decline of working class communities, whose dress exaggerated working class masculinity and aggression. It demonstrated a form of ideological resistance to the dominant adult value system shaped by middle class capitalist values. However, the problem with Marxist subcultural theory has been noted by functionalists who believe that the clothes youth wear is irrelevant because most people who join a group leave when they get older. So in conclusion, traditional and neo-Marxists trivialize and romanticize the problem of crime, and for not taking seriously the reality of crime in working class community, and for not producing realistic policies to prevent crime.